Have you ever had that feeling, when you're watching like a movie in English or even listening to a podcast,
Hmm.
and you feel like you're getting it, you're following along, you understand the jokes, the nuances, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm with this. But then when you actually need to speak English, it's like
Yeah.
hitting a wall. Like the words just won't come out.
It's so common.
Does that sound familiar at all?
It's such a common
Yeah.
experience for English learners, I
Yeah.
think.
And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah.
We're really looking at this gap between understanding English
Mm.
and then actually speaking it. And we've got a really interesting YouTube transcript that we're looking at today that kind of tackles this head on and gives us some
Yeah.
concrete ways we can maybe bridge that divide.
Yeah, this transcript is great. It's like it really pinpoints the difference between passively understanding and actively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And it also looks at some of the mental obstacles, like being afraid to make mistakes,
Yeah.
and things like that. And also just how your first language can sometimes get in the way.
Yeah. And importantly, we're not just going to be, identifying the problems. We're going to be actually pulling out some really practical techniques
Yes.
from the transcript
Actually,
that you guys can actually start using
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
to kind of build your speaking confidence. So if you've ever felt like, man, my English comprehension is pretty good, but speaking is just a huge challenge.
yeah,
This is the episode for you.
you're in the right place.
Okay. Let's unpack this a little bit.
So the transcript starts with a really fundamental point,
Okay.
which is that understanding and speaking are actually distinct skills.
Okay.
Right. It's kind of easy to assume that if you understand,
Yeah.
speaking will just follow automatically,
Right.
but that's often not the case.
Yeah, I like the comparison they use in the transcript. It's like, you can watch a sport for years
Right,
and you
yeah.
can understand all the rules and you can, be like, oh, I totally get it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can go out and play like a pro.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
haven't developed those muscles.
Yeah, you haven't developed the muscle. So it's
Yeah.
like you can take in all this English content, like movies and music and podcasts,
Yeah.
which is great. It's going to expand your vocabulary. It's going to help your listening skills.
Yeah.
But if you're not actively using like your speech organs, like your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords, they don't get the practice they need to actually perform when you want to speak.
Absolutely. So all of that input is great for comprehension,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't automatically mean you're going to be able to produce the language yourself.
Right. And then the transcript goes on to talk about, I think, one of the biggest obstacles, which is this fear of making mistakes.
So the fear of making mistakes.
That's huge.
It's huge
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes feeling self-conscious.
Yeah.
Or like you're going to be misunderstood.
Right. And they give this great example in the transcript of, you're at a coffee shop. You know exactly what you want to say.
Right.
Like I want a cappuccino, please, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then that voice in your head is like, oh, but what if I don't pronounce it right? What if I sound silly?
Oh my God, what if they judge me?
Yeah, and then you just like,
What if they
The-
laugh at me?
yeah.
It's terrifying.
And so I think the transcript makes a really important point here, which is that
Yeah.
especially when you're starting out,
Yes.
the goal is to communicate your idea,
Get your message across.
not to be perfect.
Not to be perfect right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use this analogy of like how babies learn to talk.
Yes, I love that analogy.
It's such a good one because they start with like, really simple,
Yeah.
often grammatically incorrect phrases.
Want cookie?
Want milk, want cookie.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yet we understand what they mean.
Yeah. And we don't judge them for it. We're just like, you're so cute.
Right.
Here's your cookie.
Yeah. And so I think that's a really good point that the transcript brings up is like, the primary purpose of language is to communicate. And so,
Yeah.
clear communication often is more important.
Especially at the beginning,
Yeah.
like at the start,
Yeah.
than perfect grammar.
Absolutely. And this kind of relates back to something called the input hypothesis
Okay.
by this guy named Stephen Krashen.
Okay.
And essentially what he says, and what a lot of research in language learning suggests, is
Okay.
that we learn languages best when we're focusing on understanding meaningful communication.
Okay.
So when your main goal is just to get the meaning and to understand the meaning and also to convey meaning,
Mm-hmm.
that's when language learning happens the most naturally.
Okay.
And also, it can help you reduce that fear of making mistakes.
Right.
Because you're not so worried about getting the grammar perfect.
Yeah.
You're more concerned with just expressing yourself.
Yeah, just getting your message across.
Okay, so we've looked at the difference between understanding and speaking.
Mm.
We've looked at this huge obstacle of fear.
Yeah.
What's kind of the next key point from the transcript?
So the third area the transcript highlights is another very common trap that English learners fall into,
Okay.
which is translating directly from their first language.
Okay.
So obviously, your native language is a really valuable foundation, but trying to translate word for word into English can often create sentences that sound really unnatural,
Right.
and it can really slow down your speaking.
Yeah, they give this example of like, how old are you?
Yeah.
Which, in some languages might translate more directly to, what is your age?
What is your age? Yeah, exactly.
So both mean the same thing,
Yeah.
but one is just the more natural, common way to say it in English.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like,
You're thinking in two languages at the same time.
yeah, you're thinking in two languages at once.
Which is so hard.
Yeah.
You're adding an extra step.
Yeah, and so then your speech just ends up being less fluent.
Right. And you also miss out on all the natural English expressions and the sentence structures and things like that.
Right. Okay, so we've identified kind of these core reasons
Yeah.
behind this disconnect. Now let's get to the practical advice.
Wow.
What strategies does the transcript give to actually start speaking more confidently?
Okay, so the first and probably most crucial piece of advice is
Okay.
speak more, even if it's not perfect.
Okay.
Like, they really emphasize this point.
Yeah.
The transcript really hammers this home,
Yeah.
that progress comes from practice, right?
So don't be afraid to make mistakes.
And that your initial focus
Yeah.
should just be on getting your message across.
Yeah. I think it's so hard because, that fear of making that mistake is so strong.
Yeah.
But every time you push past it and speak,
You're training your brain.
you are literally training your brain.
You're exercising those muscles.
Yeah.
Right. Back to that analogy. The more you use those speaking muscles,
Yeah.
the stronger they're going to become.
And so even starting with like really simple sentences like, I like pizza, I went to the park,
Yeah.
like they say in the transcript.
Absolutely. Start small, build up to
Yeah.
the more complex stuff later.
Yeah, it's about getting to that automaticity where your brain just like knows how to form the sentences.
Fluency.
Yeah.
That's what we're aiming for.
Without having to consciously think about every single word. Okay, so speak more, even if it's not perfect. What's another technique?
Okay, this next one's really interesting. It's
Yeah,
called
sure.
shadowing.
Shadowing.
Okay. Yeah, have you heard of this?
I have heard of this.
Okay, so
My listeners
basically,
have done it.
you listen to a native speaker
Mm-hmm.
and you immediately repeat what they're saying.
Okay.
You try to copy their tone, their speed, their pauses,
Yeah.
everything.
So like you're their echo.
Exactly. You're like an echo.
Okay.
And what this does is it helps you to improve your pronunciation,
Okay.
your intonation, and that natural rhythm of English.
Okay.
So you're not just focusing on the words themselves,
Right.
but you're also paying attention to how they're being said.
Right. How they're delivered.
Exactly. And so it helps you to kind of develop that feel
Mm-hmm.
for the natural flow of English.
So it's not just about like robotic pronunciation. It's
Yeah.
about how
It's about the music of the language.
the music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you actually do this? Like, how do you shadow properly?
Okay, so you can choose like a short clip
Mm.
from a movie or a podcast, something you enjoy,
Okay.
and you just play it.
Yeah.
And then you pause it and you repeat what you just heard.
Okay.
Try to sound exactly like the speaker.
Oh, wow. So it is like,
Like really try to embody.
yeah, you're really embodying them.
Yeah, and even if you just do this for like 5 or 10 minutes a day,
Mm-hmm.
it can make a huge difference over time.
I like that because that's something that feels like
It's achievable.
achievable. You could fit that into your day.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What about this next one? This one might sound a little weird to some people.
Yeah, this one's a little strange.
Talk to yourself.
Talk to yourself
out loud.
out loud in English.
Okay.
I know it sounds a little crazy,
Yeah.
but it's actually so effective
Okay, why is that?
because you're practicing without the pressure of talking to someone else,
Okay.
right? So the transcript gives some good suggestions. It says, like, just describe your day out loud.
Okay.
Like, this morning I had breakfast, I ate eggs and toast.
Right.
Or just name objects around you.
Yeah.
Like, this is a table, it's made of wood,
Right.
things like that.
So it's like a no pressure practice environment.
It's like a safe space.
Yeah.
You can make as many mistakes as you want.
Yeah.
You can stumble over your words.
Nobody's judging you.
Nobody's judging you. You can correct yourself
Yeah, and you can kind of experiment
Yeah.
with forming the sentences and stuff.
and get comfortable with just physically speaking,
Right.
like making those sounds
Yeah.
with your mouth without worry.
It's like that physicality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I like that. What about this next point about focusing on learning phrases rather than individual words?
Okay, this is a really important one.
Okay.
So obviously, individual words are important, but the way we actually speak
Yeah.
is often in chunks,
Right.
like these common phrases that we use all the time.
Yeah.
So instead of learning just the word help, learn, can you help me with this?
Okay.
Right? Because that's probably how you would use it in a sentence anyway.
Right. And instead of just it's what do you think about this?
Yeah, what do you think?
What do you think about that? Yeah.
And so learning these pre-made units
Mm-hmm.
can really boost your fluency because you don't have to construct them word by word in the moment.
It's like you've got these ready-made building blocks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so they're just right there.
And the research actually backs this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of research in applied linguistics that shows that learning in chunks can really make a big difference.
Interesting. Okay, so learn phrases, not just words, and then try to
Try to use them
use them in real-life situations.
in real life. Yeah.
Like when you're at the store or whatever.
Go to a store, ask for directions,
Yeah.
low pressure situations.
Low pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this idea of speaking with people that you feel comfortable around?
Oh, this is so important, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking to people that you trust
Yeah.
and that you feel relaxed with, like
Yeah.
friends, family,
Yeah.
other language learners,
Yeah.
it can really reduce your anxiety
Right.
and allow you to just focus on expressing yourself
Yeah.
without feeling judged.
And there are apps now that can help with this, like Hello Talk, Tandem
Yeah.
Speaky,
So many good apps where
Yeah.
you can connect with,
other learners.
other learners or even native speakers who are
Yeah.
also looking to practice.
Right. And so, everyone's kind of in the same boat,
Everyone's in the same boat.
which is really comforting.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to judge you
Right.
because they're also learning.
Okay, last strategy here from the transcript.
Okay. Last but not least,
Improve your listening skills.
improve your listening.
I know it sounds counterintuitive.
Those sound a bit counterintuitive.
Because we're talking about speaking.
We are talking about speaking,
Like,
but
they're connected.
they really are.
Okay, so how do you actually, improve your listening skills to improve your speaking skills?
Okay, so it's about active listening,
Okay.
right? So not just passively listening to stuff in the background,
Right.
but really paying attention
The details.
to the detail.
Okay.
So the words, obviously, but also to the sentence structure,
Okay.
the common expressions,
Mm-hmm.
how native speakers respond in conversations.
Yeah. How they use the language.
Exactly.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should people be listening to?
So things like podcasts are great.
Yeah.
TV shows, YouTube videos,
Yeah.
anything where people are speaking naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then really engage with the audio.
How do you mean?
So pause it.
Okay.
Repeat phrases.
Okay.
Try to notice.
Like shadowing almost?
It's like shadowing. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're also paying attention to the intonation,
Okay.
like the way the voice goes up and down and the rhythm of the speech.
The pauses, the stresses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of that conveys meaning.
Right.
Like, think about the difference between saying,
Yeah.
really, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and really, are you sure?
It's totally different.
Right? Just the tone completely changes the meaning.
Yeah. And then there's this idea in the transcript
Mm.
that when you imitate,
Yeah.
you're actually training your brain
Mm-hmm.
to think more like a native speaker.
Yes. It's like rewiring your brain
If you're rewiring your brain.
to process English more efficiently.
Yeah. And then you can speak more naturally.
Right?
So by actively listening and mimicking,
Yeah.
you're kind of internalizing these patterns.
Internalizing the patterns. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about all these great strategies from the transcript.
Mhm.
I think there are also some really helpful, vocabulary and concepts
That's a good vocabulary.
that are worth noting.
Yeah.
What are some that stood out to you?
So one that comes up a lot is speak up,
Yeah.
which means like to talk more loudly
Oh.
or to express your thoughts more clearly.
Right, to be more assertive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then there's get stuck,
Get stuck. Oh, yeah.
which is
Like-
feeling of
When you can't think of the word.
you know what you want to say,
Yeah.
but you just can't get it out.
Yeah.
Like you have a mental block.
And it's so frustrating.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
What about pick up a language?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
So that's like learning it naturally through exposure and use.
Oh.
Yeah, like just by being around it
Yeah.
and kind of absorbing it.
Which can be a really effective way to learn.
It can be, yeah.
What about get the message across.
Get the message across. I think that's a really important reminder to prioritize communication over perfect grammar.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out.
Especially at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about being perfect. Just get your message across.
Just make yourself understood.
Yeah.
And then this idea of step out of your comfort zone.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
It's hard.
It's so important.
But it's so important.
It is. But it's hard.
But it's hard.
But it's necessary for growth.
Yeah.
Especially in language learning.
Yeah. And then there's the whole, take time.
Take time.
Be patient.
Patient.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Move on from mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on them.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Keep practicing.
Yeah.
And then work your way up.
Yeah. Start with the easy stuff.
Yeah.
And then gradually make it more difficult.
Right? Like with everything in life.
Yeah.
And then in the same boat.
In the same boat. I love that.
It's about that shared experience.
It's about knowing that you're not alone.
Yeah.
That other people are struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
It's so comforting.
Yeah. And then lastly, pay attention to.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just a good reminder to
be mindful.
Be mindful.
Observe.
Notice the details.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this transcript is
it's a gold mine.
It's so good.
Advice.
And I think, the main message that's coming through is that this is totally achievable.
Absolutely.
You can overcome this challenge.
Yeah.
It just takes practice. It takes patience.
And the right strategies.
And the right strategies.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the most encouraging things from the transcript is
yeah.
Don't aim for perfection.
So focus on communicating.
Yeah, because that can be really paralyzing.
It can be, yeah.
Like that fear of making mistakes. So there's this great quote. I love this quote.
I love this one.
Confidence comes not from being perfect, but from trying anyway.
So true.
So
true. I think that's such a good message for anyone who's ever felt that frustration
yeah.
of understanding but not being able to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
here's something to think about.
Okay.
What's one small action that you can take today to practice speaking English?
Okay.
Maybe it's shadowing a short clip.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's describing your lunch to yourself in English.
Yeah.
But just do something small.
Yeah.
And see how those small actions can build up over time.
Yeah.
And help you to feel more and more confident.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.